Hi, I'm Stephanie, and it's time to talk about luxury, more specifically, luxury beauty. When I look back at my makeup purchasing history over the years, I began as a strictly drugstore beauty girl. But I have noticed that over time, I have been gradually moving towards the higher and higher end ranges. And now I am currently in the stratosphere, purchasing mostly luxury beauty products. And the question is, why? Because luxury makeup is still just dirt. We wash it off our face at the end of every day, just like any other makeup. And the question I'm going to try to answer today is, why luxury makeup? Why luxury in general? What does that term even mean? And is luxury worth it? But this video is going to be in a slightly different format for me. If you've been following my channel for a while, you might recall that I reviewed all 6 of YSL's Couture Mini Clutch quads when they first released. And since that time, every single one of those lovely luxury palettes has broken. But I really like the eyeshadows, so I decided to repair them, and I filmed the entire process. I thought that footage would be the perfect backdrop for a leisurely discussion on luxury. So that's a lot of what you'll be seeing on screen during this video. And at the very end, I even have a tutorial showing you exactly how I repaired them. So I tell you where I got my materials, what I used, the steps I took, the whole shebang, just in case you're looking for some inspiration on how to repair some of your own makeup. And of course, if you'd like to just skip right to that part, I always use timestamps. But now back to today's questions. Why do I gravitate towards luxury? Why do you? Or why don't you? And is it or is it not worth it? Some of my reasons are obvious to me. One is the packaging, which is a little ironic considering what I'm doing here, namely repairing and upgrading these luxury components that so rudely broke. But for the most part, I've had a lot more luck with the sturdiness of high-end and luxury packaging. And to be fair to YSL, I believe they have since fixed the adhesive issue they discovered when they first launched these, since the new palettes don't seem to fall apart anymore. But packaging isn't the only factor. Quality, formulations, and color nuance are too. Although there are certain products that I still purchase from the drugstore, I find that I truly do see a difference between the price points. Sometimes it's simply an issue of nuances and undertone, but I also see a difference in the way products sit on the skin, and that the pricier products often tend to look more natural and have more longevity, especially eyeshadow. I have yet to meet a drugstore eyeshadow that actually works for me. My longing for functioning eyeshadow is what first drew me to the more expensive shelves at Ulta in the first place, and there I have stayed. But at some point, high-end wasn't enough. I just had to try luxury, and I haven't turned back since. Now I'm trying to figure out why. Because I think we all know at this point that when we buy luxury items, we're mainly paying for the name. I mean, most luxury brands also have a reputation for things like fine craftsmanship and premium materials. But if you've ever watched creators like Tanner Leatherstein, who literally dissects luxury bags to examine the value of their components, and who will be linked below, you know that even the most premium materials don't justify the price people pay for luxury brands. Not even close. What you're paying for is the name. That's how powerful branding is, because it is very possible to find goods of equal or even superior quality at a fraction of the price. I mean, premium materials and fair compensation of talented craftspeople aren't cheap, but they don't cost the exorbitant amounts you might think based on luxury pricing. Now, when it comes to luxury cars or luxury bags or even luxury sunglasses, these premium items can often be used as a flex. Maybe you, want to demonstrate your apparently exceptional taste, or perhaps you want to prove that you can afford the finer things in life. But luxury makeup? Once the eyeshadow or the blush or the lipstick is on your face, no one can tell if it was from a luxury brand. In fact, depending on how you wear your makeup, people might not even notice that you're wearing any at all. So it's not a flex, because no one will ever know if you paid $10 or $100 for that lipstick. If it can't be used to make a point to others, that makes this category a little different than maybe some of the other luxury categories out there. If it's just for ourselves, what is it that draws people like me to luxury cosmetics? Part of it definitely is the allure of fancy packaging. Some luxury brands really know how to make a component feel splendid, to look at, to hold, to interact with, even YSL, at least when their adhesive works. But some of the allure is also the technology in the formulations. Case in point, these YSL eyeshadows really do feel unique to the touch. The haptic experience of applying them is especially luxurious and something that I had never experienced before in quite the same way. And that is rare in this oversaturated cosmetics market. And just like the bespoke components that luxury brands often have, like these quilted components, innovation tends to cost money. And that's not limited to luxury brands. Take the indie brand Clionadh Cosmetics, for instance. They might not be a luxury brand, but their multi-chrome eyeshadows sure do command pretty luxury prices. But those shadows also feel quite opulent. And now, I think we might be getting to the heart of why I enjoy luxury items. I have long been the type of shopper who never looks at price tags, at least not while I'm browsing. I am like that with everything from clothing to accessories to makeup to guitars. And it's not because I can afford to simply buy anything and everything I want. In fact, it's for precisely the opposite reason. Because my disposable income has limits, I want to get the most bang for my buck. When I browse bags, clothing, makeup, skincare, homeware, music equipment, anything, I just let myself like what I like. Not only do I look away from the price tags, but I also try to ignore branding whenever possible and just try things out, try things on. Once I see how much I actually like the item, that's when I play a game called Name Your Price. For example, as I try something on in the dressing room, see how the fabric hangs, if the cut is flattering, picture how the piece fits into my existing wardrobe, and imagine when and if I would realistically wear it, I also think about how much I typically earn in a given hour. And I ask myself, how many hours of my life would I be willing to exchange for this item? And that is when I name the price that I would be willing to pay for it. Once I've settled on that amount, that is when I look at the price tag. And if the price on that tag exceeds the amount that I was willing to pay, even by 1 cent, the answer is an automatic no. I've been playing this game for years, and it turns out I have very expensive taste. When I am blind testing things in direct comparison, 9 times out of 10, I prefer the pricier product, even if I have no idea that it's actually more expensive. The frugal part of me cringes every time, but that frugal part of me has also come to realize that I generally spend less money when I buy less, but purchase higher quality. I am not a minimalist, but I have become much more concerned with only bringing things into my life that feel like they will truly add value. And the value of makeup for me is that it is my daily moment of zen. Everybody uses makeup differently. Some of us want to cover things up. Others of us want to uncover a sense of individuality. My current everyday makeup style is very inconspicuous. I have a feeling that most people don't even know that I'm wearing any makeup at all most days. But unless I'm applying makeup for work on stage or on camera, I don't really care if people can see it. For me, it has nothing to do with getting dressed up for other people. It's more of a calming ritual than an aspect of my appearance. I like to savor every step and take my time doing it. When life gets busy, it's a form of mindfulness for me. I enjoy the weight of a compact in my hand, the texture of each cream and powder, the feel of a soft brush on my cheek, the flush of color that I can blend and shape as I please. It's not about the end result. It's about the experience, a moment to pause and luxuriate in something that's completely unnecessary. And because life temporarily goes into slow motion in those moments, I appreciate every little detail. So the more attention brands pay to these details, in everything from the component to the formula to the finish, the more I tend to value that item. The cool feel of a weighted metal component or a frosted glass bottle. The satisfying click of a lipstick case as it closes securely. a beautiful design, a special formulation. Each of these things are a pleasure. And when I look up the dictionary definition of luxury, one of them is a pleasure obtained only rarely. And as I've transitioned away from the drugstore and towards luxury, my purchases have definitely become more rare. Playing the higher stakes luxury version of the name your price game with makeup, I've realized that even the frugal side of me is willing to pay more for items that not only add special value through their function, but also through the way I experience their form. In the reality of everyday life, though, even luxury items seldom completely live up to their reputation of utter perfection. More often, it's a compromise. For example, these YSL compacts look gorgeous, feel great, and contain beautiful powders. But here I am repairing them because the adhesive didn't hold. Another example is my Gucci eyeshadow palette with the opulent design and heavy weight that, for the most part, works beautifully. But it had one of the worst eyeshadows I have ever tried in my life, including eyeshadows from the drugstore. I've since gone through the effort of removing that one shadow, and I've replaced it with another one that I mixed myself from various other luxury shadows that I own. That way, I can still enjoy the over-the-top packaging and the remaining shadows, which I've always liked. But my experience with luxury has not been effortless thus far. I'm often fiddling with it to make it live up to my expectations of it. So although I enjoy the idea of luxury beauty, that's all it is, an idea. Any brand at its essence is just an idea. Marketing and design and manufacturing and reputation and customer experience all come together to create the illusion of a personality. And the personality that luxury brands are selling is that of a successful person with a taste for exclusivity. I want to be a successful person with refined taste. Maybe that's why I'm drawn to that illusion. But the reality just hasn't been as perfect as the idea. As much as I've enjoyed both the idea and reality of luxury products for the most part, my expectation of them often leads to a letdown, albeit a slight one in most cases. But when you expect perfection, how could it go any other way? Life is inherently imperfect. It reminds me a little bit of Alan Watts' law of reversed effort, which states, the more you pursue feeling better all the time, the less satisfied you become, as pursuing something only reinforces the fact that you lack it in the first place. And anyone trying to pursue something so premium that it achieves something close to perfection will inevitably be let down. At least I have been. Not enough to quit swatching luxury lipsticks, but enough to have learned my lesson. And that is that the true luxury of makeup is not in buying it or in collecting it. The true luxury of makeup for me is in being able to take the time to appreciate what I have and apply it at my own pace, to enjoy the details, to make it my own, even if that means getting crafty with my luxury palettes and customizing them until they become the perfect fit that I had wanted from them in the first place. So, is luxury beauty worth it? For me, it has been, at least in moderation, not only because I've enjoyed the fancier packaging, the subtlety of the formulas, and the nuanced colors, but also because the higher prices force me to prioritize only picking up my very favorite things. But after this experience with luxury beauty, would I consider taking my luxury experience to the next level with, say, something like a designer bag from a high fashion house? Based on my experience with luxury beauty and its components? No. Because I have had to make these things work. I have repaired quads, remixed eyeshadows in palettes, and I don't mind doing those things because I already had the materials and the skills to repair or customize these things myself anyway. And being a crafty sort of person, it was kind of fun. Plus, it's fairly easy to find luxury beauty on sale, so the prices that I have paid for these items has been minuscule in the grand scheme of luxury pricing. But if a luxury handbag, which can cost thousands of dollars were to have these kinds of issues, and with so many people discussing the subpar quality of, for example, Chanel bags lately, I assume they would have issues. There is no way it would be worth it in any way, shape, or form for me. Especially with so many smaller brands out there offering better craftsmanship with equally premium materials. So if I ever decide that I would like to buy a luxury handbag at some point, I have a feeling I would probably prefer one of those smaller brands, one whose image depends on actual quality and not the history of past glory days. And talking about it in this context, it kind of makes me more curious about indie makeup brands, because it's kind of a parallel situation. These brands are dependent on their reputations to survive, and so they have to offer quality. And I've heard wonderful things about their formulations. The one thing that's always held me back, aside from their long shipping times and how difficult that can be to coordinate with my schedule, is that their packaging often isn't super attractive to me. But I'm wondering if maybe it would be worth it. What do you think of luxury? Is it a waste? Is it worth it? And what do you think of indie brands? Do you think it might be worth dipping my toe into their world? Because my preference for luxury definitely has its limits, and as attractive as these brands have made themselves out to be, I am only willing to suspend my disbelief about how magical they are for so long before I come back down to earth. Speaking of coming back down to earth, let's take a closer look at what I've been doing here. Perhaps you, like me, have one of these quads from when they first came out, and if that's the case, then you might be familiar with this problem. That they come out because the adhesive wasn't very strong. Well, I managed to fix that with this quad here. I thought I would show you how I did it, because not only can I use this quad as it was intended in its own beautiful case, but I can also remove it and use it in a palette for single eyeshadows like this one, because I magnetized the palette. So I figured we could do it together. Maybe I can give you some inspiration for how you can fix any broken makeup you have, and we can do it together. Let's begin by taking a look at the materials you'll need. First, you will need your broken piece of makeup. Next, you will need some magnetic adhesive. I got this at Michael's. I will link a couple of places where you can get it in the description. But basically, this is something that can easily be cut with scissors, and we can cut it to fit this pan so that we can line the bottom of the compact with it. And in order to make this plastic stick to that, we're going to need magnets. I have these from 3M. They're magnets on both sides, but one side has a sticky adhesive side so that they'll stick to the plastic, and then that way that will magnetize this so it will fit into the palette. And I will also link these and everything else you might need. I have this to get the pans in and out as I need them. It's just a little spatula, and you don't need anything else. The first thing we want to do is clean this and get rid of the old adhesive that wasn't working, because we want to make sure that there's no powder in here when we try to stick the magnet in there. So I'm just going in with a microfiber cloth first of all, and just getting rid of some of the excess powder that's hanging out in there. And then I'm going to try to scratch this off with my spatula. Some people would heat this up first. I don't have a hair dryer with me to heat it up at the moment, so that's why I'm doing it this way. But it comes off either way. It's simply easier if you heat it up first. Now that the inside of the palette is clean and has an even surface for the adhesive of the magnet to stick to, we are going to cut the magnet. Now in this case, I just kind of used the pan size here to give me an approximate size. And so I just kind of did a basic measurement. I want it to be a little bit smaller because I want it to be able to fit inside here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of cut it along this line and see if I need to make any more adjustments. So I cut the magnet, and I can see that it fits pretty well inside. It's not absolutely perfect, but it fits well enough that it's going to cover the majority of the inside of the compact. And that's what's important. So now I can peel off the backing and stick it on the inside of the palette. And I just hold it put some pressure on it for a few seconds so that it can kind of bond to the bottom of the compact. But I haven't had any problems with it falling out. This has actually been a pretty good fix for me. And the solution that I use is called ProMag Magnetic Adhesive Sheet, but I'm sure there are a bunch of others out there if you happen to have something else at home. And so now we can see that the inside of this palette, I'm just pressing down the edges of the magnet so that they're flush with the compact. But now we have a magnetized compact. And so the only thing left to do is to magnetize the back of this. And so in order to do that, I want to clean this. So I'm going to spray this paper towel with just a bit of alcohol. I don't want to get the palette too wet, but this way I can clean the back and give the adhesive something to stick to. I have noticed that these 3M stickers are not all that sticky, and so what I'm going to do is I'm also going to add some extra stickiness with just this glue stick, which you can find at any craft store. You could even use super glue if you want to. I find that this is enough, and since I have it around, that's just what I'm using. But what I'm going to do is put some glue right here, let it dry just a little bit so it gets tacky, while I pull the back of the adhesive off so I can stick the magnet to the eyeshadow. And it's crazy because the adhesive will stick to this paper, but it won't stick. It won't stick to whatever you're actually trying to stick it to. So I'm going to put on 4 of these just because I want to make sure that they're secure. If you happen to have a bigger round magnet, that would probably also be enough. But since I only have these smaller ones, this is what I am using for this palette. And before I put this back in the palette, I just want to make sure that the magnets have bonded to the back. And if I see them slipping around like this, if they're moving at all, then I know they haven't bonded yet. So I'm just going to leave this to the side for a little bit.
A few moments later.
The adhesive has dried now, so let's test these out. This is 100 Stora dolls. And now it doesn't rattle around anymore. And it's pretty darn secure in there. So I think this is a pretty good solution. But instead of putting these in the compacts, I thought we could just see what it's like to put all of them into this single shadow palette. It's a magnetic palette from Salt, New York. They don't make this anymore, but they do make a different version of it now. All I need to do to get this out is just really easily slip the spatula in and tip it. And then I can switch it to the magnetic palette. And now I have all 6 of the original YSL quads in one palette, which is very convenient. And if you'd like to see a review on all 6 of these, I'll link it below for you. But my question now is, what would you do? Would you keep them all together in a single palette, or would you keep them in their individual compacts? I'm considering keeping just one of these compacts and using that for travel purposes and then keeping this, but I don't know. What if I want to take more than one with me? Let me know what you would do.
If you'd like to see more content like this and you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, comment, subscribe, all of that jazz. But even if you don't, I hope you have a great week and we can all remember that even stumbling can be a form of moving forward. So let's stumble in style.